So you've got a new server and you're going to connect to it for the first time, but actually maybe it doesn't have a graphics card, or maybe you don't have a traditional way to connect to it. Serial, console, what is that? A lot of servers actually have other types of connectors on them that you don't see at all on any other types of equipment. On switches, on routers, and on blade servers, on pizza box type of servers, you're going to find some connectors on there that you might not have seen before. In this video, I'm going to basically take you through the different types of connectors that you'll find for connecting to a server and doing configuration, especially on switches and routers, which very traditionally do not have web interfaces and work over a terminal or command line. Hi, I'm Mizen, and I make videos that hopefully can be helpful to you. And in this set of videos, I'm basically doing videos on home labbing and getting started with a home lab and why you should have one and stuff like that. The format of these videos are kind of everywhere at the moment. I'm not really sure where I'm going with this series. My main goal is that I get asked questions about different stuff, I make videos on it, and then hopefully that's helpful to those people, and I hope it's helpful to you as well. If you haven't seen any videos about home labbing yet, or you're not sure what that is, then probably this is the wrong video. If you're interested in home labbing, click on the link up here, go and watch the first video, and then write in the comments there if you need any help, and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can to try and help you out. Anyway, back to the content of this video. One of the very most common things that people will come across is terms like serial or console. Now, not serial as in terms of like eating, and definitely not console as in terms of gaming. We're talking about different connector types. This is very important on switches and routers, which very typically don't have any other way of interfacing with them, especially until they're set up. And then you'll be wondering, how do you set it up if you can't access it over a web interface, which is typical with most other home use and prosumer type of equipment, which is basically using a kind of web interface, 192.168.1.0, whatever like that, for connecting to the router to do the initial setup. You may be used to that. The main connection that you might come across is a console connection. This is definitely the most common. Console connections can come in different ways. Very typically now, the most common way is using something like this. The connector itself looks like an Ethernet connector, but basically what you'll do is you'll plug this into a special port, a console port on a router or a switch, for example, and then you plug in the other end to your computer. This one is USB. There are direct, basically Ethernet to Ethernet ones. There are other ones, but this is a very common one. And what you'll do with this is you'll connect it to your laptop, to your desktop or whatever, and then you'll plug it into a router or switch or your server. And then with that, you'll connect to it using the program of your choice, using terminal or CMD or something like that. And then you'll do the initial configuration using that cable. You also can find serial cables. Although serial cables, they look very similar to VGA, but they're not. And as you can see here, this one's still got the Ethernet, the RJ45 connector on the end, and then the serial connector on the other end. These work basically the same way as the console cables, just connect to a different port. Serial ports are not that common in newer servers, but definitely if you're in the home labs and you're buying secondhand servers, you might come across those. Typically when connecting via console or via serial, you don't use the normal SSH access that you might normally do when using terminal CMD. You'll be very used to those commands. If you've done anything with Linux or anything with CMD in Windows, you'll be very used to that interface. But if you download a program like PuTTY, for example, which I'm going to put in the description below, in PuTTY you'll actually get a choice. Do you want to connect over SSH, or do you want to connect over serial console? If it's a serial port, normally you actually specify the port number, but basically this depends on the equipment that you're connecting to and what kind of cable you're using, but basically this is how that works. So this is variable depending on the type of device that you're connecting to, and this is going to be variable depending on the configuration of the desktop or laptop that you're using, but they run the same way. PuTTY is a really good program for this because it does allow you to configure multiple ways of connecting. But important to note, very different. On servers, you're probably going to be lucky that you don't need to use this. I definitely find that from my students' perspective, and from my own actually, that the console and serial connections are they're not hard to set up, but they're more involved than just typing SSH and just going over the network. Once you turn on a server and it's got an IP address, normally you can just kind of SSH directly into it if it's got some base system installed. If it doesn't have a base system installed, then USB stick or some kind of KMS, and then you're good. But if it doesn't, then you might need to use a console cable or a serial cable to get it going initially. But on switches and on routers, especially the kind of commercial level ones, you're very often going to find that you need a console cable or some kind of serial cable to connect to it to do the initial configuration. It sounds scary, but it's not once you do it the first time. And since you're home labbing, this is part of the experience. If you're doing it and you screw it up, like I've done lots of times, trust me, then you're going to learn something from that. And after learning and screwing it up definitely a few times, I gotten better at it and I learned it, and now I'm comfortable with it, at least as comfortable as I can possibly be with that. So that's just to hopefully answer your questions on serial and console cables and what they are and what the hell that weird video port looks like on the back of your computer or router. Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful. Like the video if you do like the video, and if you want to see more content from me, then press subscribe and hit the bell icon. And if you have any questions at all about this kind of topics or subjects, just basically go below, hit the comment button and type in your question, and I will try to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And if you want a video on a specific subject or a specific task, tell me and I will plan for that to happen. As always, this has been Robert Mizen. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I'll see you in the next video.